When I am creating a pet portrait, it is extremely important that I get it exactly like the pet that I'm doing for somebody, because it's their fur baby. So rather than doing my own drawing and working using my drawing as a template, I use their photograph. I do a photocopy of the photograph they've sent me, and I use that as a stencil template. So I start by drawing out the contours of the face and where things like the eyes, the nose, the muzzle is. And then once I've got those little bits of drawings, those little bits of lines down, I can then go in and do all the details, make those eyes realistic, the nose, get markings on the ears done. When it's just a lion, it can be any old lion, the same with an elephant. I can draw my own picture first, but I have to use a template when I'm doing a pet. Also, with drawing, there is no end or no limit to how much you can draw. You can never draw too much, even if you're going to be putting appliqué fabric over the top. It is obviously so much easier, even if you're not an artist and you're not used to drawing, it is obviously easier to make marks with a pen or a pencil in your hand than it is when you're holding onto fabric or the edge of a hoop and you're sewing these marks and these textures of fur, or trying to recreate the texture of a rubbery skin nose of a dog. So the more you draw with a pen and a chalk and a pencil, whatever medium you want to use to draw it out to begin with, it helps you to understand the anatomy, the direction of the fur, what happens in those deep dark nostrils, where the fur is coming around the side of its muzzle and its cheek and its mouth like this. If you're drawing just a few little marks with a friction pen, I use a friction pen because you can iron it off if you make a mistake, and it's just a nice way just to work so it's not permanent. I like to use a permanent pen as well. But yeah, whatever you draw is just only going to help you when you come to do the appliqué or the thread painting, because there's such a thing as muscle memory. If your hand brain coordination is done at once, I'm looking at what I'm drawing, I'm looking at the shadows around the nostrils, I'm looking at the light, I'm jumping back and forth from this little bit to that little bit, checking it, rechecking it, then coming in with the chalk pen. Your brain is understanding it and it's sending that information to your hand to draw it. So it just, muscle memory is an incredible thing. And then when you come to draw it with thread painting, you've already drawn it once and you understand it a little bit more. As I said at the beginning of this video, when I'm doing a pet portrait, I work from the actual photograph. So the template stencil I'm using is the photocopy of the photograph. Whereas normally I will do a drawing on a piece of paper first of, let's say, the gorilla. And then that small drawing of the gorilla I will enlarge on a photocopy machine to whatever size I'm doing the gorilla. Let's say it's 1 meter squared. Then I use the template of my drawing to stencil it out onto the canvas. So that way I've already drawn it once on the paper, and then I draw it again on the canvas, and then I draw it for the third time with a needle and thread. So I get to understand the anatomy of animals, not just once, but often 3 times when I'm creating one. Also, any of these marks you're making is going to help you choose the fabric. So when I'm choosing fabric for the nose, which I tend to do, strangely, I draw let's say the eyes and the nose in detail first, and it's really the only thing I draw in immense detail when I'm doing an animal. Weirdly, when I'm appliquing, I applique them last. I often applique them just before I'm about to sew them, but I always sew them first. So I'll sew the eyes first, always, on an artwork, because it's the window to the soul and the most important important thing, and I'm sort of excited and fresh at the beginning of a project. But I tend to put, so for the nose, I will probably put fabric. I'll probably do fabric on the eyes right at the end when I've done the appliqué. But when and I'll sew the eyes first, but when I come to sew the nose, that's when I will put a bit of fabric on it. But when I'm putting all these lights and darks onto the nose, it's going to make it that much easier when I come to put a little bit of appliqué fabric on it, to choose bits that have got a light bit or a dark bit, or maybe a stripy bit or a pattern bit, or a bit that is a bit purpley. Also, weirdly, when a black nose, or any black really, you'll see with this a Labrador that although he's a black Labrador, so much of it looks white or silver. And often when you take a picture of a black dog, most of it looks silver and white and, pale blue. So there's going to be lots and lots of very pale icy colours in the appliqué and the thread when I come to doing the fabric and the thread. Sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, so as much detail as possible that you get down is just going to help you with every single step, whether it's the appliqué step or the thread painting step. And also sometimes it's not necessarily something I've done only recently. I've been doing it for at least 3 to 4 years now, not covering the canvas completely and allowing some of my canvas to show through. Which I rather like. It can give animals almost a little bit more of a mystical, ethereal sort of, sort of essence, I suppose. They sort of almost disappear into the canvas, or they sort of emerge from the canvas. I often get inspiration from painters and pastel painters, soft pastel artists. It can be a really wonderful thing to just Google portraits. If you're working, let's say you're working on a dog portrait for yourself or for a commission for a friend, it can be really helpful to look at portraits of painting portraits of animals, just to Google them. I get a lot of inspiration from looking at that, particularly pastels actually. Soft pastels can really help for inspiration. So I'm just starting the appliqué here, and as you can see there's lots of very light pieces of fabric, but also very dark fabric. It goes from black through to silveries, pinks, pale pinks, pale greens, and then some lovely flowers there on the cheek on the left hand side. I'm just putting some bits in the ear here. With this one, I'm definitely going to leave some of the canvas showing, but once I've done the thread painted the eyes and thread painted the nose, I then decide, as I'm moving around and thread painting areas, I then decide if I want to add a little bit more fabric or not as I go along. I like to keep it a little bit open to begin with, particularly with the pet portrait. I don't know why with the pet portrait I tend to work differently. I guess because there's so much personality involved in someone's pet, that it can be a little bit tricky sometimes to sort of see your way through. So I am just adding in some more bits in the ear here. It's very, I love this K-Facet dot fabric, and it just adds that little extra element of fun. And as I get further away from the eyes and the nose and those, facial features, you can start using more bold fabrics. I tend to use the more sort of delicate, subtle fabrics around the eyes. You can see I changed it there. I was about to put another little strip of the Roman glass, but I do worry when there are very definite circle patterns right next to an eyeball. So I changed that one there, and I will probably bring, because it's nice to repeat, I'll probably use the Roman glass fabric like down in his neck area later on, because I have put some in that right hand and the left hand ear. And just so you can see, I use the template a lot, particularly with a pet. A pet is a very different kettle of fish to any old lion, any old elephant. So I use the template a lot. So although this isn't a pattern on the dog, he's a completely black Labrador, I do obviously want to get the shapes correct. So you can cut out areas and then you can lay them down. So cut out areas of your template where there is a marking or a pattern or a shadow or a highlight. And you can put it on top of the little piece of fabric you've cut. And if it's a dark piece of fabric, then you can use your chalk pen. This is the lovely Bowen chalk pen. It's the best chalk pen ever. Compressed chalk. If it's a lighter fabric, you can use a pen or a pencil to do it. And then you can slowly cut it down. It just means you're getting the right shape. I don't know whether you can hear the cicadas in the background here. They're particularly noisy at night. I forget about them actually. You can see here I'm concertinaing the fabric. So when I want it sort of rough cut at the edges where it's slightly serrated, I push the fabric. I sort of scrunch it up, concertina it in the scissors so that you don't get a harsh line. It helps to sort of bleed the fabrics into each other. Obviously, if you're doing a nice straight edge of a lip or a horn or at the edge of a nose, you would want to cut it straight. But when you're blending fabrics like this, I needed a little bit more orange up there to match the other side. I don't want to make it too symmetrical, but I just needed it a little bit higher. So I got a little bit extra to put up in there. Trimming down a little bit. So I'm not quite sure how much of the background canvas I'm going to leave on this. I'll see as I go along. I'm not going to cover the whole dog, the whole head with appliqué fabric, just in case I do want to leave some of the fabric canvas and keep it sort of a little bit mysterious and ethereal, like he's sort of emerging from the canvas. I'll see how I go along, because it's the eyes that I thread paint first, then the nose, and then I will do the rest of his face. It's funny because I always draw it's the eyes and the nose that I draw in detail. When I'm doing the appliqué, I actually put appliqué on the eyes and the nose last, but so I do the appliqué everywhere else first. It's amazing how, even with these small bits of appliqué, how much more the eyes and the nose jump out and look so crisp and realistic just with these bits of fabric. You can see as I start to thread paint things, how things are going to really start to pop and jump out. But yeah, these are sort of like my first blobs of paint, I suppose, aren't they? These bits of colour. And yeah, look, you can lay the template back on and just make sure you're getting things in the right place. And got to lay that little bit of a slightly lighter, the way then it's although it's a black dog, the light is shining on him. And there's actually a lot of blues in there, so I will definitely be using gorgeous blues, denim blues, grey blues in my threads. Lots of sort of silveries, even turquoise coming in there. And it's nice, actually. I wasn't entirely sure when I first picked the black fabric, because it's got these lovely rusty coloured flowers on. But then I have those sort of peachy rust flowers on his cheek, and actually his eyes, he's got the most beautiful rusty amber eyes. So I thought, actually, in amongst all this black and silver and green on his fur, it'll be really nice to just bring some little flecks of those sort of ambery oranges coming through. I don't want to put too many pinks because I want it to be definitely like a male dog. His name is Alfie, and he's very much a gorgeous male Labrador. But it's nice to have those sort of those colours filter through. Like even if you can see down under his nose, I've got a very faint sort of ambery colours coming through there. I'm just thinking about whether I should do some bits at the side to connect all that. I actually decide not to in the end, but there is a very harsh line around it. I will cut some little bits and get rid of that harsh line just so it bleeds in, because it can be quite difficult when you go from really dark to really light. It can be very difficult with thread to get it to be subtle. So I think I will get some smaller pieces and just cut a few smaller pieces at the edge of that dark piece rather than one big massive piece. I'm quite enjoying some of the canvas showing through. Although that looks rather nice as well. And there you go. So I've done a lot more around the eyes, and I'm going to start thread painting the eyes now. Hope you've enjoyed that little bit of the process. Hope it's been interesting to watch.